Good morning, welcome to Pub Football. I'm Miles Blumsom. This guy over one of these ways, depending on the edit, is Jimmy Livingston. We're here to have a look ahead to this weekend's Premier League games. The last Premier League weekend in lockdown part 2 and the last Premier League weekend before some teams, depending where they are in the country, will be allowed to have some fans back into their stadium, which is great. Every club is in Tier 2. So that means every club can have up to 2,000 fans, which isn't amazing considering the capacity of some of these stadiums. But you know what? It's better than nothing, isn't it? Anyway, before we look ahead to this weekend's games, the rest of them anyway, there was a game last night, Crystal Palace losing to Newcastle. I don't think there's much to say about this. It's a Crystal Palace result. It's the same as a Newcastle result. They'll get a good win and then they'll be rubbish for the next 3 weeks and then they'll have a good win. And that's what they do.
Yeah, agreed. I think Palace are starting to struggle slightly without Wilfried Zaha at the moment, but good result for Newcastle. Been absolutely terrible for weeks on end and pulled a win out the bag.
On to today's games. 12:30, Brighton, Liverpool at the Amex. Liverpool have been a bit wobbly, to be honest. Lost to Atalanta in the week at home at Anfield. 2-0, their first loss at Anfield in 2 years, which is incredible. Brighton, lots of great performances, not many goals. How do you see this going?
I think, as you say, Liverpool have been a bit suspect, especially in the week. I did watch the game and they were pretty poor. I think obviously they had a bit of a rotation with a couple of kids coming in, but I thought they played well against Leicester last week, Liverpool. So I expect them to play quite well again, and I expect to be comfortable 3-0.
2-0 away win to Liverpool. I agree with you. I think Brighton will play some good stuff and they will cause some problems. They just can't seem to get it over the line and into the goal at the moment. 3 o'clock, Manchester City, Burnley at the Etihad. Burnley, yes, they won last weekend, but they are having a shocker this year. It really feels like it could be the year that they go down.
Yeah, agreed. As you say, big win, but when you don't invest in the side, you're kind of relying on the same players year after year after year. It is going to catch up with you. I think Burnley always have a terrible record at the Etihad. They always get battered about 4-5-0, and I expect that to be the same. I think it's going to be 5-0.
I'm not convinced by Man City this season. I don't think they're looking great. They were pretty, they had all the ball against Tottenham, but they did not threaten at all, really. They scored the goal, which, by the way, I thought was handball because he controlled it with his arm and it wouldn't have dropped to him if it hadn't. But I agree they're going to win, but I don't think it's going to be that comfortable. I actually think it's going to be, I think they're going to scrape it. I think it might even be 2-1. They looked very open last weekend. 5:30 at Goodison Park, Everton, Leeds United. Leeds have sort of hit that plateau almost since they've rocketed in at the start of the season and looked brilliant. It's like Premier League life. They've settled in and it's caught up with them a little bit. Everton got back to winning ways last weekend and they have been, I think, one of the better teams in the Premier League. They've had their wobble. Calvert-Lewin was back scoring last weekend. And I don't know, I think they can contend this season for the top 4 because they're not going to be title challengers because they're too inconsistent. But it's just something about them that they keep getting the wins at the right time that I think will keep them in contention.
Yeah, great. I think this has got the massive potential of being a goals bonanza, to be honest. I think both teams can't particularly defend. Obviously, it was proven last week with Everton scraping past Fulham. Good win, but conceding 2 goals against Fulham is never a good start.
No.
And Leeds are kamikaze. Leeds will give it a right good go, and I think it might. I think it's going to finish 3-3.
3-3.
I think it's going to be goals.
Yeah, so do I. But I think it's going to be 3-2 home win. I think Everton will have enough. West Brom, Sheffield United. Now, these are 2 teams I think might both go down this season. Sheffield United have been nothing short of appalling, but they need to win. If Sheffield United don't win this, I think they're pretty much dead and buried already. They haven't won yet this season. This will be the game they've targeted. Away form last year was brilliant for Sheffield United. This year, no form's been good. And West Brom are just what we expected them to be, really, which isn't great.
Agreed. I think, as you say, huge 6-pointer. I think they're going to cancel each other out and it's going to finish 0-0. And both teams are going to rue that big time.
1-0 Sheffield United. I've got faith. First win of the season. They've got to get it eventually. They won't go through the whole season without winning a game. Sunday's games, 2 o'clock. Southampton host Manchester United. Have Man United been on a little bit of a resurgence? I'm not sure. Southampton have looked very good, and I think they could get the job done here, you know.
Agreed. I think United flattered to deceive quite a lot, to be honest. 1 week they're absolutely fantastic, next they're terrible. Literally scraped past West Brom last week, didn't they? And I think Southampton are a really good side at the moment, playing some lovely football. It's nice to see Theo Walcott scoring goals back down at Southampton. And
We'll get a move back to Arsenal soon.
Well, you should do. We need him. I think they'll get the job done. I think they're going to win 2-1.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I can't see Man United keeping Southampton out twice. They scored too many goals with or without Danny Ings. And United, they're just a bit boring, aren't they? And a bit bleh. It's just, I'd be very unhappy if I was a Man United fan. So many years of success, and now they're putting up with this. 4:30 on Sunday, Stamford Bridge, Chelsea, Tottenham, the two form teams in the league, you could say. Both playing very good football, both keeping clean sheets most weeks. Well, actually, Tottenham aren't keeping clean sheets most weeks, but yeah, Tottenham are defending well enough. Joe Rodon looks set for his first start for Tottenham in the Premier League, starting ahead of Davinson Sanchez, which is interesting, although I think he's a bit more reliable. Sanchez might be a bit more physical, but he's a bit more reliable. And Chelsea look great. Last season, Tottenham came into games against Chelsea twice on a good run where they could push into the top four, I think, if they won the game. Both times Lampard had the better of Mourinho. And I'm worried it's going to happen again.
I think this is going to be an absolute cracker of a game. As you mentioned, both teams in good form, defending really well. It's going to be really interesting. I think home advantage might just sway it in Chelsea's direction, but I was really impressed by Spurs last week. It's hard to say at the moment, but Spurs are looking pretty good. And with such a wide open Premier League race this season, I think they're going to be right in it. But I just think Chelsea are going to have enough. 1-0.
The thing that Chelsea have that Tottenham will find the hardest is they have N'Golo Kante. So that means that Harry Kane dropping in, he's the one player in the Premier League who I think could get there and stop that from happening as much. So that's going to be difficult for Kane, but it's where Kane will show how good he is if he can adapt to work around that. But I agree with you. I do think it's going to be 2-1 though. I think Spurs might be able to get one. And but I think Chelsea might just nick it, which is horrible. And if Tottenham win, I'm going to be so happy. You see it. Yeah. Arsenal Wolves at 7:15 on Sunday evening. A bit late for a Sunday game, that, isn't it? You sort of want your Sunday to finish by then. But at the Emirates, there's going to be a game. And Wolves are a team who will cause Arsenal lots and lots of problems, especially the Arsenal team we're seeing at the moment.
As you say, with such a late kickoff, I'd rather not have a game on at all with the way Arsenal have been playing recently. It's been so poor. And as you say, Wolves have the massive ability to, especially, I know Adama Traore hasn't really turned up this year so far, but it's the type of game he'll absolutely destroy a left back and cause us absolute carnage. Yeah, he might absolutely destroy him. But Arsenal have been terrible against Leeds last week, or holding on for dear life. Nicolas Pepe, stupid decision to do what he did. Even in the week, it was pretty mediocre. Just don't really see where we're going at the moment. And I think we're going to probably labour to a fortunate 1-1 draw, I think.
Is Arteta going to last the season?
I think you've got to give him the time. I think if we're looking to potentially give him what he needs, I think you've got to trust the process. I know it's going to be a pretty poor season by the way it's looking, but just give him the season, get a couple more players in, see where we are this time next year.
2-0 Wolves.
Okay.
Moving on to Monday night, 5:30. So you've got to race home from work. Leicester City, Fulham at the King Power. I can only see this going one way. Leicester weren't brilliant against Liverpool, but I didn't think they were terrible. And they've managed to scrape a point in a really entertaining game in the Europa League on Thursday. They should still have too much for Fulham.
Agreed, yeah, Leicester have been great. They'll carry on their form. Jamie Vardy's absolutely flying at the moment, which is great to see. It's good to see Fulham scoring goals, but they aren't going to win this one, unfortunately. I think they're going to lose 3-1.
3-1. Actually, 3-1, I agree. Home win, Leicester City. West Ham United against Aston Villa, finishing off the weekend, 8 o'clock on Monday evening. This is a tricky one to call because Aston Villa have been great this season, but I actually think West Ham have just quietly gone about their business and have been very, very solid, and I've been really impressed with them.
Agreed. I think this will be a really good game, actually. As you say, both teams are playing quite well. Both look pretty good going forward. I think the away team are just going to have enough. I think Villa are going to nick it 2-1.
I'm going to disagree with you here, actually. I'm going to go the same result, but the other way around. I think West Ham might just do it. I think that there's just a solidity about them. And Barkley going off injured last weekend is not going to help Aston Villa. He's been a key player for them. So I think it's going to be 2-1 West Ham. Anyway, that was Pub Football with Miles and Jimmy. We'll be back after the weekend to review this weekend's games. We'll see how our predictions have gone. Not normally very good, so I wouldn't put much money down on them. Anyway, there's one thing left to say, and that's cheers.